It is the end of the year, glory, glory, hallelujah. And before you go home and, you know, start relaxing and spending days and days and days sitting in the pool reading books, because that's my master plan for this summer, there are some things that you want to get done to make sure that you start off next year in a good, you know, happy fashion, especially if you're staying at your same school. So in this video, we're going to talk about 6 different things that you should do this year in order to prep for next year before you go home. None of them are super crazy. Like, I'm not trying to pile on a whole bunch of work for you at the end of the year, but if you do these things, next year will be a lot more smooth. So without further ado, let's hop right on in. All right, number 1 is gonna be assessing your students. Now, if you're a classroom teacher, then you probably took like a standardized test, so you can ignore me. But I'm talking more specifically to the music teachers on here because this is Becca's music room. And so for music teachers, I don't know about you, but I, for a long time, really shied away from the idea of like assessments or worksheets because it just felt very like not exciting to me, and I was worried that the kids weren't gonna like it and that they weren't gonna do well. But what I found from actually assessing my students is that they don't mind. Like, they're at school, so they're used to it. It's not a huge deal. And also it helps me so much to like really concretely know what we know and where we need to work on things. So this year I've been, you know, I assessed all throughout, but at the end of the year I really wanted to make sure like we had things solid. So I gave all of my students, they all got a rhythm test, and then some of them also had a solfege test. So 2 grades did, and then the other ones didn't work as much on it, so I didn't worry about it. So by doing this, I had a couple of different things. On the rhythm ones, we had like a dictation where I said a rhythm, they had to write it, then they had to circle some rhythms, they had to make up their own rhythms that had the correct number of beats, and just things like that. So a variety of activities. And then the solfege was very similar. I had notes on the staff, they had to identify them, and then they had to put notes on the staff, and then they had to make their own. These were really great because I could see different aspects of what students needed help with and what they understood, and it really gave me a good, like, well-rounded understanding of where they stand. Now, the reason assessing your kids is really important is honestly not that much for them. It is really more for you, because if you look at your assessments and you see, hey, none of my students could, you know, hear a 16th note and write a 16th note, then you know that next year you need to practice that before you move on. So I told them that before we did it. I didn't even tell them it was a test. I was just like, look, we're gonna do a rhythm activity. There's gonna be a couple different questions. I'll read them to you, and this is gonna help me know what we should do next year. So if we need more help, we need more practice next year, or if we can move on and do harder things. And that's what I told them. We didn't have any issues with that. I also let them do coloring sheets when they finished, which also was a nice little bribery because they were like, I want to color. And I was like, okay, cool. So having those assessments was really helpful for me to see what we need to, you know, review before we move on, if we need to review things, if we should go on, you know, like all of those things. And so make sure you assess your students, whether it's a written worksheet or whether it's, you know, observing them while they're playing along with the video, whatever you want to choose, but do something so that you know what you need to do next year. Kind of on that same vein, while you're assessing kids, ask them what they enjoyed this year. When it comes down to it, your kids are gonna learn most if they are having fun and they're enjoying music class. So you wanna make sure that you repeat the things that they liked. If they really enjoyed something, you wanna make sure you bring it back. For example, I had a lot of kids tell me this year that they really liked using the iPads. Cool, we'll use the iPads next year. I had a lot of kids tell me that they liked singing songs from around the world. I was like, excellent, we'll sing more songs from around the world next year. And just things like that. And so just, even if you don't write it down, you just kind of like make a mental note of what they say. It's helpful for you to see what they enjoyed so that you know what to do next year. Assessing the kids and asking them what they liked is going to help you next year. I do have a whole set of like music room reflections, so you can use those. I used them last year, I didn't use them this year. But you can use them as like a guide for that, and it asks like, what was your favorite part of music? What was your favorite thing? What was your least favorite thing? Like all of those kind of things, so that you can kind of get a good grasp of that. I also have some assessments if you're looking for those as well and you're like, I don't want to make assessments. I have quite a few rhythm assessments that are finished that are like huge packs with a bajillion things in them. You can use them as assessments or not as assessments. And I'm working on some solfege ones, so if those are available, I'll link them down below, and if they're not, then they will be coming soon. So you can join my email list or join my Instagram, and those people are usually the first people to know when those things happen. Number 3 is gonna be about you, and that is reflect on the year. So just as you want the kids to figure out what they liked, you also wanna see, okay, what did I like? What went well? What did not go well? Where can I improve? All of those things. I do a video actually here on YouTube every single year talking about all of my reflections from the year, and I find it so helpful to just sit down and like talk these things out and really think through what went well, what didn't go well, what do I need to change. All good teachers do this all throughout the year, but especially at the end of the year when you're going into the new year, think before you forget everything, what can you do better next year? Along with this, I like to go ahead and start setting some goals for next year. I like to have just 2 or 3 things that I'm really focused on. That way I can make sure I'm improving in the areas I want to improve in. Full disclosure, this year I didn't have any goals because we were coming out of COVID, and I was like, I just want to like survive. And so I had very low expectations this year, but going into next year, I want to make sure that I have more specific things again, like I have in the past. I find it very helpful to have just a couple things that you're really focused on. That way they kind of get ingrained into your teaching method, and then the next year you can focus on different things and life is a lot better. So assess what you liked, set goals for next year before you forget everything. Figure out what did you like, what didn't you like, what went well, what didn't go well. How can you be a better teacher next year, and how can you make your life easier next year? Because that's really what it is the more you improve, the more your life gets better. Doesn't everyone want that? All right, next is a very practical one, and that is laminate all those anchor charts that you've been saving all year. I don't know about you, but I tend to be the person who forgets to make the anchor chart or forgets to print out the stuff until the day of, and then I'm like, oh no, I need this in 5 minutes, and then I print it out or make it really quickly during my lunchtime, and then it never gets laminated, and that's where we stay for the rest of the year. My dog's trying to lick my feet, that's why I'm moving around. So the reason I don't like that is because then next year I either have to like get rid of it and start over and usually go through the same thing again, or I have to find something else to do. So now, before you clean out, as you're pulling things off the walls, find all those anchor charts that you didn't bother to laminate, find all those flashcards you didn't bother to laminate. Do you do the thing, I do this all the time, where I'm like, oh, I forgot to, print out that activity, so I'll just print out 2 sets, one to laminate and one to use, and then I forget to laminate them. Yeah, that happens a lot. So go take all those things that need to be laminated and laminate them. That way next year you will be prepared and you won't have to redo them again. If they look nasty, redo them now, laminate them now, so you don't have to worry about it, and you will have less people to fight with over the laminator and the copier next year. In that same kind of vein, if there's anything that needs updating in your room, now would be a great time to go ahead and again, print it out, laminate it, like make it whatever it is, so that you have it prepared for next year and you can focus next year on other things. I like to spend pre-planning actually focusing on planning my lessons and not working on my classroom personally. So that's why these things are important to me. Number 5 is do inventory and also create a wish list. So do inventory, go through and look, and say, how many glockenspiels do I have? How many drums do I have? How many, all these things do I have? Look at anything that's broken and really make note of those things so that you know where you are. And that way, especially like if there's summer school over the summer and they're in your classroom, like you can have a record of what is supposed to be there and all of that good stuff. It also is just like good for record keeping purposes, and really you should be doing inventory regardless. While you're doing inventory, also start making a list of things that you might like, because sometimes money pops up and grants become available, or you can post something on Donor Shoes when they're like, hey, we're gonna be doubling all of the donations. That's when I always try to make sure that I have a project going when they double the donations. And so just like having things that you would like already on a list really helps, because then when PTA comes and is like, hey, I want to buy you something, or Donor Shoes is doubling donations for a day, or there's, a grant available, you already kind of know what you want. Now, you don't need to like go through and be like, I want this specific xylophone and these mallets with the orange yard. Like, no, we don't need to do all that. But just be like, hey, I don't have very many glockenspiels. It would be nice to have glockenspiels. Or I would like to have more drums, or, you know, just stuff like that. And just have it in the back of your mind so that if the opportunity presents itself, then you will be able to go ahead and know what you want. Because I've had times where like people have been like, oh, hey, there's this cool grant, go apply for it. I'm like, I don't even know what I need, and like it's really weird. And if there's a grant, I want to take advantage of it. If there's money, I want it going to my students. And so I really look for and find as much opportunities as I can. And because of that, I want to be prepared and know what's next on my list of stuff that I would like to get for my classroom. So in case anyone's curious, stuff that's on my list of things I would like, boom whackers with accidentals, because I don't have any. I only have the normal A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And then guiros. I think I have 3 guiros, but they're not in the best condition, so I would like to get some more. And then if someone like wants to just give me a lot of money, I really want a ukulele rack. So I'm working on that. But I know the things that are like next up on my list, and I know what I'm keeping my eye out for in case the opportunity presents itself. And it might not present itself, but at least I'm prepared if I do find out about something. And the last one is kind of the hardest one, at least for me, and that is put your stuff back in an orderly fashion. I don't know about you, but when it comes to the end of the year, I'm like, just throw it in the closet, drape some tablecloths over it, and let's go home, because I'm just one of those people, like I'm better on Mondays than I am on Fridays, and I'm better at the beginning of the year than at the end of the year. Like I tend to lose steam as we go. And so by the time we get to May, I'm like, I'm done. I'm over it. Let's go home. That's how I felt today. And I was like, all I want to do is lay on the couch, but I really need to film some videos, and I was not happy about it, but here we are. And so I hope this is helpful and I'm not wasting my time. Anyway, so I tend to be one of those people that's just like, throw it in the closet. Like, I don't care, throw it away, just get it out, get it gone, and let's go home, please. But I always regret that in the fall when I come back and I'm trying to set things up again. Because if you don't put things away in an orderly fashion, it is very difficult to put them up next year. So last year I tried to do a lot better. And a couple of really practical tips for putting things away nicely for you would be, number 1, make sure you start like a pile of like what's going home with you. That way you don't accidentally like leave the coffee maker in the back of the closet and then pile up the closet and then be like, oh, I need the coffee maker. So go ahead and start like a pile of like, this is coming home with me. And then try to get it so that the things you need the soonest will be the easiest to access. So the things you need on like day 1, day 2, day 3, so the coffee maker, those should be the last things that you put away, so that they're on the top or they're in the front of the closet, whatever your situation is. Just make sure they're easy to access when you come back. Along with that, just like stacking things orderly and neatly so that you know where they are, covering bookshelves so that they don't like just get dust all over them. Make sure you label everything, every single chair, every single bookshelf, because people steal stuff at the beginning of the year, especially got new people coming into the building over the summer. They might steal things. You don't want them stealing anything, so put your name on it. And then specifically, one thing that's helped me is that I started grouping like things together, which is probably not like the most amazing thing in the world, but what I mean is, specifically, I'm thinking of like my front bulletin board. So on the front bulletin board, I always have like my I can statements, my standards, and I have our rules and that kind of stuff. And so I started taking all of them down, and I put all of the laminated letters together, and I put all the I can statements together and all of those things together in one box, so that I can pull out that one box and I know this is everything I need for the front of the room. Okay, and then same thing for like behind the pianos. I have a couple of boards that go up on the wall. Those 3 are gonna stay together so that I can pull them out, put them up, and, you know, move on with my life. All of my like posters and stuff like that, they're all together. Also, pro tip for next year, I'll just go ahead and tell you. Instead of putting a whole bunch of individual things on the walls, what I did this year is I printed out all of like our vocabulary, and then I put them on like 99-cent posters, and laminated the poster with all the things on top of it. And then I just stuck that up there. So all of the rhythm words are together, all the melody words are together, and to take them down, all I had to go was shoop and put them in the closet, and I can use them again next year, and I won't have to put them together. I can just go shoop, and then we're good to go. So there's a free little tip for, you know, getting your stuff together next year. All right, friends, that's a couple of things that you need to do now to make sure that you are prepared next year for the beginning of next school year. Even if you don't quite want to think about it, I don't blame you. So get these things done, and then, you know, spend the next 2 months relaxing by a beach somewhere, or sitting at the pool somewhere, or teaching summer school if you are a brave soul. And if you are doing that, then you can think of me, because I will be at the pool chilling with a book. That's my goal. I'm probably gonna work the whole summer. The downside of having a business. Anyway, whatever you're gonna do this summer, I hope you do enjoy it. I would love to know your end of the year hacks, so leave those down below in the comments so that we can all benefit from your knowledge. And thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.